Chairman Shabazz.
Yes.
Should we still be speaking about race and racism in the age of President Barack Obama?
Yes. President Obama coming into the White House means that race is discussed even more, because everyone's always talking about the first black president. And so naturally, black issues and what it means for black people is a relevant subject. And for those that say the racial discussion should not take place as much anymore because there is a black president, we beg to differ. I think it requires us as a people and us as leadership to address this situation differently, but just as effectively as we have in the past, and to be even more effective in the future.
Now tonight you introduced a pamphlet which is instructing African Americans on how to deal with police contact. How would you respond to the fact that the amount of black men being killed by law enforcement officers or wannabe law enforcement officers have increased under a black president? Do you feel that there's some sort of pathology that causes folks to think it's okay to kill black men?
I think the black man has been an endangered species and has been under attack. And if your facts and my facts indicate that more blacks are killed under police brutality and abuse under a black president, that only speaks more to the question of whether race and racism is still a problem in society. Obviously it is, if more black men are being killed today than yesterday. So I introduced the pamphlet, What Black People Need to Know When Dealing with the Police, by Black Lawyers for Justice, because I want black people, the black community, and particularly the young black man, to be armed with facts and legal knowledge so that they won't be victimized and so that they will be wise to how to handle the police and not be subject to illegal searches, illegal seizures, and police misconduct. I feel that the more we're legally educated, that the rate of police abuse will go down. But there's a black president and black people being killed more by police, that's nothing more than a wake-up call.
Now tonight, in your comments, you had spoke about a black agenda, if you would. You spoke about, you said that someone needs to speak, someone needs to have a state of the black world address, if I'm quoting you right. Several weeks ago, a bunch of several prominent black leaders had met in Washington, D.C. to formulate what they said would be a black agenda that will be presented to President Barack Obama. You know, tonight you criticized heavily the civil rights leaders, and the ones that were at this black agenda meeting were among the civil rights cadre, Reverend Al Sharpton, Mark Morial, Ben Jealous. How would you respond to that, them attempting to form a black agenda?
I would say, according to my knowledge and information, that they are only trying to get in the middle of black people and the president and claim that they are representing a black agenda to the president, when in reality, I believe that it's really not a black agenda. And from what I studied from the National Action Network, from Reverend Sharpton, from the NAACP, from Ben Jealous, and Mark Morial of the Urban League, that it's some progressive items that they seek, better health care and better education, but it is not a black agenda. And certainly they did not poll black people to get the issues and facts and data that black people would want presented. And so I personally had enough of civil rights leaders claiming that they represent black people and getting in the middle to try to broker our interests. We're out here with black people in the streets and out here with black people on the front lines, and we know what their genuine interests are and their aspirations are. And I don't think that those leaders really represent a black agenda. And so we're not going to allow them to get in the middle anymore and to pour water and to cool down the aspirations of the masses and claim that they represent us. They are self-appointed to a great degree. Self-appointed representatives of the race. Now, if you want a real black agenda, I'm happy to sit down with any of them. But I don't think that leadership of the NAACP, the Urban League, and the National Action Network, or the Rainbow Coalition is an adequate representation of what we're doing is an adequate representation of what black people want, unless you have the Nation of Islam, the new Black Panther Party, the All African People's Revolutionary Party, Black Lawyers for Justice, Cynthia McKinney, and a whole host of local organizations that fight for our interests and our cause. We got to stop playing games with this situation called power and demand in America.
This past presidential election, President Obama had received nearly 100% of the black vote. Do you feel that African Americans or African American leaders are somehow giving President Obama a pass because he's African American?
He's absolutely getting a free pass because he is an African American or a black man. The White House today receives little criticism for anything that it does. President Obama is ready to send over 20,000 U.S. troops into 35 African countries. For what? But no one is questioning him. Why? President Obama has received 100% of the black vote. Black people love President Obama and have fought hard and stood in long lines to elect him. I think they should be rewarded. I can't understand why months after the election and after all of these debates over the budget and whatnot, that nothing specific has been offered that would benefit our community. I'm not being ridiculous. I'm not saying President Obama has to be Stokely Carmichael in the White House and paint the White House black and put up a red, black, and green flag instead of a red, white, and blue. That's what silly people would try to say that I'm saying. But I'm saying, where's the agenda? Where's the urban agenda? Where's the agenda that's specifically focused, and the bills and the legislation that are focused on poverty, on the education of our youth and our babies, the specific education that's designed to re-employ ex-felons, the specific legislation that's designed to address problems in what we call the ghetto. We voted for President Obama in record numbers, but we're suffering. And somebody has to stand up and say that. Otherwise, we'll always be played for the cheap. We'll always be rallied around at election time and being given an election victory, and then after that, we're off the agenda. Black people are getting played politically, and I'm interested in fighting and litigating and organizing a force that will fight back against that corrosive factor.
Now, one of the criticisms that many have had towards President Obama and the candidates, but specifically now President Obama, since he's been reelected, is that he has not addressed what many refer to as the prison industrial complex. Michelle Alexandra wrote a book called The New Jim Crow, and she said that black men were being intentionally railroaded and warehoused to supply labor for those that run the prison industry. You being an attorney, have you seen any evidence of this? You defending many black men, many brown men. Have you seen any evidence of an attempt to railroad black and brown men?
Black and brown men have always been railroaded in what I call the criminal justice system of white America, Brother Doshon. Consistently, we are giving sentences that are in excess of the same sentence that's given the same white offender for the same crime. It's white kids and white boys that commit crimes and they get off with community service, while the same black child or black youth for the same crime with the same prior record is given much harsher and longer sentences. It's fact of the matter, we're giving longer sentences. We're put behind these jails to sometimes work for free and raise money for corporations. And it is a form of involuntary servitude or slavery according to the 13th Amendment. And I will speak to that. And black attorneys need to speak for that. So I can't really just criticize President Obama for everything. He should be addressing these issues, but so should the black lawyer. So should the black attorney. So should the black leadership. And so if the existing black leadership is silent because they have received a dinner invitation to the White House, or because they are on the list for private meetings, and so they've gone mute and gone silent on the White House. Attorneys that I know are dedicated to principles and laws, and they don't care who is in power. They don't care who the judge is. What's right is what's right, and what's wrong is what's wrong. And so we are going to continue to fight against the incarceration and criminalization of black men in the criminal justice system. Try to keep our men out of jail. Try to keep them out of prison. Try to make them legally educated so that they can be wise in terms of what they do, in terms of choosing their representation or the arguments they may make. And so it's a fight that we have to fight again. But I can't put that all on Obama. He has his responsibility. But I say that the black lawyer and the black attorney must do a better job.
Lastly, you had announced that one of your organizations, the new Black Panther Party, and Black Lawyers for Justice was sending a delegation to South Africa. Can you please talk to us briefly about that? What is the purpose of that?
Africa is important, and it's important that I visit Africa at this point. And I never wanted to go to Africa unless the circumstances was right. I'm not into going as a tourist or as a visitor. I was invited by the Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania, which is a political organization that invited myself and the new Black Panther Party because they want to form a united front for liberation with us. They respect our work and they want to align and unite with us. And so I'm being invited to fact find, to study, to absorb the sacredness in a sacred pilgrimage. But I'm also going to Africa to speak in Johannesburg, to speak in Soweto, to speak in Cape Town as the guest of the PAC, to speak all over the nation about the condition of black people in America. Because through propaganda and improper propaganda, black people all throughout Africa have been deceived as to the nature of our relationship with the United States. They have been deceived to believe that America is much more just and balanced and equitable than actually what it is. And so I come as a witness from inside of the United States of America to help my African brothers and sisters see, really, that the promised land is not the United States of America. The promised land is Africa, and that our efforts should be dedicated to making Africa better and to driving out all foreign forces that are exploiting and misusing our people. And so I will be going to Africa to hopefully be a part of the eventual total liberation of Africa. Very humbly, that's why I'm going, and honored to serve. I want to study to see what Mr. Mugabe has put in place and how he's surviving his struggles. I want to study the situation in South Africa. I want to see, is the argument true that it's a sham independence and that the ANC, African National Congress, has really bought into the neo-colonial system and are neo-colonialists. I want to see, is that true or is that an unfair allegation? I want to do some fact-finding. I want to return to my roots and feel my black family. Sometimes, man, I get tired of fighting as a 13% minority in America, and I'm always dealing with somebody killing me, somebody beating me, somebody denying me my rights. I want to go somewhere where black people are in the overwhelming, dominant population, and I'm going to Africa. And you coming with me, aren't you? You coming with us, right?
Possibly, Attorney Shabazz, possible. Listen, Attorney Malik Zulu Shabazz, we thank you for joining us. We wish you luck.
Brother, you cut my energy.